10 million copies sold. What is going on? Isn't this supposed to be the worst game ever? Why are so many people choosing this game, Pokemon? And why should you choose our sponsor? Line paper. Do you have trouble writing a straight line? Are people making fun of your handwriting? Well, use our sponsor, Line Paper, and you'll never have those problems again. Thank you, Line Paper, for sponsoring this video. Alright, so I have been playing Pokemon Violet for a week, and I have good and bad things about it. So let's start with the good things. I really enjoy playing this game. I really do. And no one can talk me out of it. I don't know why you'd want to talk me out of it. If I'm enjoying this game, that's the purpose of playing video games, is to have fun. And I really am. You know, it's hard for me to put it down. I usually have to find something else to do to get away from this game. But yeah, it should be probably the most solid Pokemon installment we've had in a while. But it just isn't. And I don't want to just make a video that, you know, tears this apart. I want you to start off with knowing that I enjoy playing the game. I really do. I get into the fact that there's more to do in this game, that they're adding, you know, new game dynamics, that it is an open world, that I don't have to do things in order. That's a real positive for me. So let's start off with, I like playing this game, and that's huge. Now into, should this be 10 million sold between Violet and Scarlet? And I don't think it should be. I really don't. There have been many issues with gameplay. And first is the graphical glitches that everyone has seen. They have just gotten weird. They really have. Last night when I was playing, I literally was battling a trainer, and I was standing right next to that trainer with no Pokemon on the field, and we were battling. It was strange. It was very, very strange. And it takes you out of the storyline. And that's kind of the bigger problem. Many people are trying to compare it to Cyberpunk, but Cyberpunk wouldn't run. It wouldn't run on all the systems it could. This at least runs, but having those glitches takes it out of the story. Makes no sense whatsoever. So that's tough to discuss. And my previous video, this game just came out too early when it comes to, you know, the technical glitches. It's not what you should be getting from the top franchise in the world. Best selling Switch game ever, you know, starting off first week. Shouldn't expect it. Now there are other issues I have, and that goes with the gameplay dynamics. Where do I start? Let's start with just wild Pokemon. In Pokemon Legends Arceus, you know, wild Pokemon would gather around you and they would attack you. That's different in this game because they don't straight up attack you. They just wait for you there. And while you're battling, say, another wild Pokemon or a Pokemon trainer, you are surrounded by a bunch of Pokemon. And for many times, because I was doing open world exploring and I had leveled up my Pokemon, I really just didn't want to battle a bunch of wild Pokemon all at once. And everywhere I turned, boom, you know, exclamation point. Gotta go into another battle, gotta run away. They do need to change that variable rate right there of, you know, how many Pokemon surround you and come up to you, because that's just so annoying and frustrating. I don't mind a frustrating game when it's due to gameplay. It's actually tough, it's challenging that way. I do not like frustrations that come from just laziness. Then there is the hordes of Pokemon. There are so many more hordes of Pokemon. It used to be in, you know, again, Legends, like, oh, it's this one place. No, but they travel in packs, and they're just everywhere. They are everywhere. And that's a little much. And I think solving a few of these problems I'm going to talk about could help, you know, the graphical errors, the lag. There's just a little bit too much in there. It's like they wanted to throw everything in the kitchen sink in there. And it's really hurting the game. So you just, as you keep progressing into like more challenging areas, you know, you see more and more packs of Pokemon, and that is a lot more things you need to render. Well, that's very annoying, and it's taxing on the system. If they, again, reduce the variable rate of how many Pokemon show up in the wild, that could actually allow more system resources to render the graphics better. So I have taken issue with, the graphical glitches, the Pokemon that surround you while you're battling, and then, how many Pokemon show up. These two are variable rates that could help the first one. And then with all those things combined, there's another issue with the Pokemon. They have, not wrongly, changed the sizes of the Pokemon due to their actual size variance in the Pokedex. And so you get something like a fungus, and it is tiny on the screen. It is tiny. And you can, if you're riding your Pokemon, you can run into it easily. Now, this isn't a problem when I'm playing on the bigger screen when I'm streaming. I can see it very well. I have tried this in handheld, and I don't see any of these small Pokemon at all. So I'm just cruising along and just expecting to cruise along to get to the next area, and boom, I run into this Pokemon without seeing it. And, that's very frustrating too. So there are quite a few frustrations going on with this game, and that's tough. So they should be a little bit more visible rather than, okay, it's a small Pokemon, let's make it impossible to see on the small screen. Like, you gotta remember, the Switch does actually switch. Some people do play that Switch on a handheld. You have to play with the Switch Lite. That's even a smaller screen. I don't know if they're expecting, like, oh, everyone's just going to go buy an OLED. But I haven't played it on my Switch OLED. I've played it on the regular one. I doubt those little few more inches will make a big difference with this problem. Next is how they have changed the menu setup when you press X, and fundamental gameplay dynamics from the previous games. And specifically the one that confused me a little bit because I wasn't really paying attention, it wasn't really explained, was Pokemon boxes. And there's a lot of other things, little minor things, but I'm going to bring this one up, is the fact that there is no PC in the Pokemon Center anymore. What they do have is, where you meet up with your friends. And I thought maybe that's where you switch the boxes, but you can just access your boxes anywhere. It's not someone's PC anymore. It's not Bill's PC. That's probably the most famous one. But for a while, I didn't realize that. And, I get why they've done it. It is to make it a little bit ease of use, just for gameplay dynamics. But there is, and I'm going to get into this bigger problem, and I talked about it in the last video, who the audience is. And I think it's tailoring just one audience more than the other. And it's just little gameplay dynamics that, could be better explained and explored. So that's a little nuanced thing. Yeah. Then with the open world, I do like the open world. It's just, I'm getting lost a lot. There's no clear path on what you do, which is fine. It is fine. But, if you're a younger player and you can't figure things out, it doesn't work. And there are some parts of the open world where I have landed that I cannot get out without using, flying taxi. Like, as soon as, my base Pokemon, the Pokemon here, I forget the name, it's like Meridian or something. As soon as it got the longer jump, I was jumping into places that you're supposed to be able to use it to swim, and I haven't gotten that yet. And I'm getting trapped on, like, ledges and places, and if it wasn't for that flying taxi, and I didn't realize to think of it, because, typically flying taxi, you need to be somewhere. That would be game over. It would be game over, and that would stink. And that could confuse a lot of players. And that's not what you want in a game. You don't want it to be confusing. So, bringing this all to a head, and this is something the Pokemon Company should do, Nintendo, Game Freak, is they need to start realizing how broad their audience is. Because this game is trying to do too much. It is trying to be an introductory Pokemon game to younger players. Fine. And then also trying to keep old heads like me satisfied with the game with all these new game dynamics and making it tougher. You're now at a point, Game Freak, Pokemon Company, Nintendo, that you have an audience that spans over 30 years. My nephews and nieces, who are ages 1 through 9, a lot of the advanced stuff, they can't do in this. They like their Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. But should they be playing Pokemon Violet? Probably not. Probably not. It has too hard of game dynamics. Now, for an older player like me, should it have the graphics that it does? Should it? No. No, it's very child-centered. And I get if they came out and said, "Oh, we're doing that to reduce the stress on the system." Yeah, okay. Not really. Like, if you remove a lot of the simple things and reduce like the variable rate of Pokemon showing up, which just reminded me of something, like I'll get into that. You can make a better game. You can make a better graphical game. I will not blame the actual physical Nintendo Switch yet until someone proves that it's actually the hardware, because I think this is just laziness. I think that's laziness and greed from the Pokemon Company, Nintendo, Game Freak, that this came out at this time. That they thought, hey, we've had this schedule for a long time, not realizing we can now do more with it. This might need longer development, and they just brought it out for the holiday season. And the thing that I thought of, as I was talking is, and it goes into, this is making it easier for probably younger players, is how many items are on the ground. If you just go around collecting items, you probably don't have to buy anything from the Pokemart. I know I've bought a bunch of Pokeballs because I've just been trying to fill up the Pokedex and not really evolving, but just the amount of items on the ground is insane. I feel like that goes into like, okay, we're trying to make this a little bit easier for novice players, whereas experienced players like me, makes no sense for. It really makes no sense for. Between the TMs, the regular things in Pokeballs, and then the little golden sparkles that you find on the ground. Like, if there was a limit on the bag, I would be filled by now. If there was a limit like in Pokemon Legends, filled. It's tough to really explain. Like I just can't believe how many items are on the ground. It makes the game way too easy, in my opinion. So those are my gripes, and they can be solved. A lot of these can be solved with updates. At least probably the first 3 can be solved with updates. So the last few, it's a big company decision, and I'm putting that out there. Game Freak, Pokemon Company, Nintendo, you'll still make the same amount of money. You'll probably make more money. It's just you will have the old head fans that will appreciate, the harder, more intense game with better graphics, and you'll have the kids who will also appreciate, the easier game that is kind of in the old style that brings them into the world. And frankly, it's such a big franchise, people will probably buy both. But you should be creating different teams of developers for these different audiences that you now have. So, yeah, a lot of these things can be fixed, especially if they do an update. The graphical errors can be fixed if they change the variable rates of the Pokemon, just in when they show up and how they come to you. Maybe the variable rates of how many items you find and a reduction. This game should be like the best Pokemon game out there. And I'm worried it's going to be a Pokemon X and Y situation where it was a great idea, a new system, and they just bombed because they were throwing too much at once. They wanted to bring in a newer audience, and it's kind of just, let's throw this out there, people are going to buy it and make Pokemon. So I hope this is the probably last video I have to make about Pokemon Violet. Maybe. It might be a while, especially if they actually do an update, which will be tough to see. So I hope you enjoyed this content. I hope you found it informative. If you want to show your support, subscribe, like, notifications. Other than that, you watch to the end, makes you an awesome person. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.